get financial mastery. Yeah, learning to stack assets and building wealth properly. Oi, yeah, welcome to the Wealthittude family.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Wealthittude. I'm your host, Serapia Spence, and I have an amazing program for you today. I have asked my husband and a number of our friends to join us for this discussion. I'm going to have him introduce himself again for those of you who don't know him, and then I'm going to ask our special, very, very special guest to also introduce themselves and tell us a fun fact. And we can't wait to hear that. Antonio?
All right, thanks, Raphael. Hey guys, how are you? I'm Antonio Spence, and as you would have seen in previous episodes, I am a seasoned financial professional. I mean, with probably more than or just about 25 years experience in the space, spanning everything from insurance to pensions to client advisory, investments, banking, mortgages, etc., etc., etc. But my most important job is as husband to Seraphia Spence and as dad to Isabella. Now, Seraphia said our guests would tell you a little fun fact about themselves, so I am going to include myself in that too.
Tell us a fun fact, Antonio.
Okay. So, fun fact about me. While I was growing up, I never really wanted to do anything other than to be a chef. I thoroughly enjoyed cooking and preparing meals for anyone that I was around because it gave me, one, the opportunity to demonstrate creativity in the kitchen, and two, I love the idea of taking care of people and seeing them happy and their bellies full and them laughing. So
I can attest to that.
yeah. So that's me. So back to you, Sir Raphael.
Well, since Antonio went ahead and gave a fun fact, before we started, I told him that I used to time tree and Lisa used to run me down, and then I find out that I can go fast. That's not a true story. That was just for the fun of it. Fun fact about me, I love to write poetry. All right. So I love poetry. And I find that it helps me as an attorney. I have to go through a lot of documents and stuff like that. So I put little poems to the cases that I read, and it helps me to get through the cases. So that's a fun fact about me. Right. And so to my left, I'm going to ask Katrina to introduce herself and tell us her fun fact.
Okay, so I am Katrina Gregory. I am a small business owner. I'm a wife, and also a mother of two beautiful children. My son Benjamin and my daughter Gabrielle. A fun fact about me. Well, I've been told by family members that I could sing, and I just never believed them, never thought anything of it. And then one day I decided to go to the school to it's a voice training institute. I went there, and when I sat with the coach, after about 10 minutes of her listening to my voice, she said to me, you know, I'm here to tell you that you are actually you've been in the wrong field all your life. Your entire life, you're in the wrong field. And that was probably about 35 then. So yeah, that's a fun fact about me. I didn't know I could sing as wonderfully as I was told I could sing.
And guys, we haven't heard her sing. So, the next birthday party, we're not hiring any talent. She is definitely going to be the talent. Kai?
Okay. Hi, I'm Kyan Faulkner. I go mostly by Kai, preferably. I work in monetary policy communication, and I met Serafia and Antonio through my wonderful daughter, Micaiah, who has been friends with their daughter, Isabella, for some time now. Fun fact, Serafia actually stole my fun fact. I also write poetry, and I perform poetry, and have done so in the past for quite a few years.
All right, fantastic. And that I can attest to because I follow Kai on her YouTube and also on her WhatsApp status. Okay. Right? So I see that. And I'm going to ask you, Sue, to introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Susan. I am a registered nurse, Bryan University Hospital. I am married. I do have a daughter as well. Um, Fun facts about me is that I love to listen any music from the 80s. I am
Oh.
still stuck in the 80s. R&B, reggae, everything that has to do with the 80s. My antenna goes up when I hear those music. So yeah, that's it about me.
Fantastic. So we've known these people for a couple of years, and I'm learning from these fun facts. One of the reasons why we wanted to do this podcast is to ensure that we're on a mission to make financial literacy fun and exciting and accessible to everyone. So we asked our friends to join us to discuss, what difference learning about financial literacy or having been given advice about money, what difference would it have made to them if they had known earlier, right? So I'm going to start with Antonio,
All right.
right? Do you think financial literacy is necessary, and why?
So, yes, I think financial literacy is necessary, important, and actually, the older I get, the more critical I understand its meaning, and it's even more critical to understand about money and how to manage money earlier in your life.
Yeah.
Right. So there's this principle that Warren Buffett speaks about. It's compound interest, the eighth wonder of the world. Now, when you think about that, you think about, in order to optimize, maximize wealth over, in a lifetime, you actually do, one of the key ingredients is time. And so access to and understanding money, finance, what to do, how to do is important. So the earlier you get it right, obviously, it means that the longer you spend doing the right things. And so, of course, it typically means at the very end, the better off financially you are. So that's one. And then two, I have seen, and it doesn't apply all the time, but I have seen where, as kids growing up, parents are, certainly back in the days, 60s, 70s, 80s, parents may not have been as comfortable discussing things like how much they earn and what they have in the bank accounts and that kind of thing, because our culturally we didn't have that exposure, and so for a lot of families, the children didn't quite get an appreciation for money until they were deep into adulthood, and they would have had to have gone through a much steeper learning curve, made more mistakes, etc. So when I think about it that way, in my mind, it's necessary, it's important, because we need money to do almost every single thing that we do. And so if you understand how to manage it, what to do, it allows you to be able to get to better places earlier. So that's my perspective.
But was that your experience growing up? So did your mom and dad talk to you about money? What was the experience like for you growing up?
So for me, it was a little bit of a mixed bag, in that my mom and my grandmother actually taught me the virtues of saving. So I was an avid saver. I would hardly eat lunch, save that lunch money every single day. So I always had money, and I was always lending them. Now, I mean, the truth is, if I had known about things like, charging interest, I should have. I didn't. But again, the fundamentals were there. But there were certainly more things that I would have loved to have had access to in hindsight. But they certainly did the best that they could have done, and certainly based on what they were exposed to.
And so I've shared my experience in an episode that I can put the link below, that I've shared online. So my mom was also a business owner, and from the age of 9, I was going to pharmacy, I was going to pay taxes, I was going to the lodgements. I saw how money works from, saving, from budgeting and all of that. And it was important to me to ensure that our daughter Isabella understood the values from early on. It's one thing to set up the legacy for them, but then if it is that you're putting the legacy in their hands and they have no understanding of how to manage it, what are we really doing? So that is the mission behind Wealthittude, and that is something that we are very passionate about, ensuring that from the younger children to the older adults understand and have a good relationship with managing money and money, not only money, but just building wealth overall. And does anybody want to chime in terms of what your experience was?
I can just make a point, please,
Yes.
that most of the financing aspect of life is not taught in school.
Yeah.
So we as parents have to take that onus upon us to, ensure that the children have that understanding, from an early age.
Fantastic.
Let me ask a question. I don't know who wants to take this one, right? So, we all have at least one child. Some of us have the onesie. Some of us have more than the onesie. but when you look at your child or children, what sort of how do you think they think about money?
Yeah.
Well, I know for me with Gabriel, so basically what my husband always says to me, you spend too much. You just spend. So I now have to look into myself to see how my habits, what I am doing, maybe I'm not literally sitting them down, teaching them about money, but basically what they see me do, every minute I go on supermarket or we go on somewhere and I have a list that says, okay, egg and bread, and then I come out with a whole trolley full of stuff, then that is showing my kids that, hey, you're not managing your money, you need to do better budgeting and that kind of stuff. So I kind of have to look into myself to see how am I creating those habits and what am I showing the kids based on my example for them, in terms of money management.
And just to come off of that, it's interesting that you say that, because going back to the question that Sarafia asked before about what I was shown growing up, it was a similar thing where I wasn't really sat down and explained about the money. I just knew the money came. Yes. I didn't really know. I mean, I knew earning. Right. You put in hard work, it was earned. Yeah. My father was a provider, but my mother was a spender. Yeah. And so I find myself now, I'm also a spender. But I've recently, as my daughter hit maybe 10, been very, very conscious about how I'm showing up and what kind of financial responsibility I'm, passing down to her, what kind of financial responsibility habits that I'm passing down to her. Is she just seeing the spending? And I need to now show her the other parts of managing money. Yeah.
It's amazing that you said that, because it takes some introspection to look at yourself and to see what it is that you want to do different for your child. Right. Yeah. So getting to that point is a good thing, Kai. Yeah. A good thing.
So let me ask you. So we have the benefit of both hindsight, right? Yeah. And we have these young ones. So we're able to see a lot of ourselves in them. We're able to see some of the mistakes that we made, some of the things that we'd like, and some of the things that we would love to do. So if you were to kind of look forward, look ahead, if you could give your child one piece of advice to kind of help them navigate effectively going forward, even perhaps maybe even based on previous experience, your own previous experience, what would that be when it comes to sort of managing money?
I'm happy for that question, because there's one significant thing I really want to encourage my daughter to do, just as your experiences back in your day, was to start saving from now. Saving. As I grew older, I get to understand how important that is. In terms of, managing money, starting from early is the optimum. Always start from early. Saving is the key for me. Yes.
Kai, what about you? What would that one piece of, what would that one little thing that you say, boy, if I could just impart this would, I think this would have like they're really, really meaningful to your daughter?
Well, other than saving, that's very important. I think also just the concept of a budget, the concept of separating needs from wants, the concept of delayed gratification, just kind of thinking more long term and not just in the minute. Oh, I like that candy. I like that, which is what she's doing now. I want this. I want this scrunchie. I want it. It's just kind of encouraging her to just think a little bit more forward thinking with money.
And
Katrina?
for me, no, we tell them all the time, save, right? You have to save, accumulate as much as you can. And then once you accumulate, you invest. So we're looking at investment. So we're moving from savings and we're going to investing. And then we're going to look at what are the income generating things that we can invest in. So we're teaching them at a young age, that kind of language, investing and what is investing, and not just invest, but invest to get a return on
Right.
things. So yeah, that's what we teach them now,
Okay. Yeah, good. Honey, so it's kind of funny, right? So just hearing the parents talk, because we go through this as well too. So we have budgeting that we heard about, and then we have the next before that, saving, and then that next phase, which is investing. So it's like a 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
And based on what has been articulated, I imagine that most, if not all, parents kind of feel this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we talked to a couple of parents and they have expressed the very same thing. So it is actually a journey that is important, and the conversation. So we ask you guys to be a part of these conversations, because almost all the time that we meet, we're talking about how is it that we can make things better for our children? How can we teach them financial responsibility? How can we make it better for them to understand that, we don't want them to go through the same pitfalls that we went through. And these are the guidelines and the steps. I know that for a lot of us, we talk about money, but money really and truly at the end of the day isn't wealth.
No.
Do you agree?
Yes.
What does wealth mean to you?
I think for me, when I think of wealth, I think of, instead of going from month to month like this, I think of wealth of more like a smoother journey, and probably just some more abundance and freedom.
Yes. Right.
Yeah.
And that's it for me too. Wealth means for me financial independence. I don't have to worry about anything with money. I can go travel to Italy. I can go to I'm wealthy. So wealth for me is financial independence. Yeah.
And Sue?
Yeah, for me, it's any assets that you can get generate income from, not necessarily in the short term, but in the long term as well. And for your children, setting aside something that is long term to provide for your children and living comfortably.
Yeah. And Mr. Spence, what does wealth mean to you?
So, there's a component of wealth that is financial, and there is and I think all three ladies would have said it well.
Yeah.
It is the ability to have sufficient such that the excess you're able to do things that you don't necessarily need to do, but want to do. Right? And it's also about having sufficient to be able to give back. Sufficient to be able to, not worry about your children and what, will happen to them. But I'm taking an even longer term view on that. So I think if we look at wealth, we try to build wealth beyond our generation, if you will. So things like ownership becomes very, very important now. And by that I mean business ownership, And whether it be businesses that we build ourselves from scratch or businesses that we buy into, that we find that we look at trying to transition to our children. I think it's important to be able to build a platform, a fortress that is significant enough to be able to take care of not just our needs, but to have something that we can transition to our children and something that they may be able to build on. And then when you tie this into the conversation with the children too, it's just as important. So, and here's why. I think we need to both guide and listen to our children, right? Guide from the perspective of making sure that they understand the fundamentals, getting them involved in things that we ourselves are doing that are wealth creating, assessing and taking feedback from them on how passionate they are about it or not, let's be fair, or not, because maybe some of the things that we are pursuing are things that they themselves have zero interest in. Be open to be able to hear the things that they're passionate about, and if there's an opportunity to be able to include that in the business or the wealth creating activities that we are now doing, so that we're providing an environment that will allow them to be able to transition easier into it. Because why that point is important is I have seen over the last 15 or 20 years, I have seen, persons build good, strong businesses. They do well. They sacrifice a lot. They, build incredible, profitable entities. But they didn't take the time to be able to bring the children into the businesses, take some of the feedback from the kids, share, show, get them accustomed to the cutting room floor, whether it's if they're running a supermarket, get them bagging flour and saltfish and so whatever the business is. I mean, that's just an example of. And so the result is the children kind of disassociate from the wealth creating activity that the parents would have been a part. And so what happens is there's no transition that is possible because the kids aren't passionate about it. They aren't able to see how they can have an input in the activity. And really, really good businesses, wealth creating businesses, fall flat after the owners get to a particular age and are no longer able to. And it's a real waste because there are big dynasties that are possible to be created if it is that we do that. That's one. And then two, it's critical to also listen to them about your passion. So we may not look at things like design and gaming and people doing the creative stuff, for example, as some people may not look at it with the eye that these things are wealth creating. But if we take the time to discuss what our kids are passionate about and understand, where that passion could go, look broadly, and then kind of share that with our children, there may be opportunities for ourselves to be able to evolve into taking advantage of some of the opportunities there, or where we have businesses, to be able to allow those businesses to capture that kind of creative element and evolve into this new, more beautiful thing. So for me...
And I like that you said that. I'm going to share openly about a discussion that I had with Isabella. So our daughter does not like the limelight. She is reserved, but she is brilliant. And so when we're doing Wealthittude, I said to her, Isabella, this is our company, our new company. We're going to start this new company. We're going to do a business. Mommy and daddy wants you to get involved. There's so many children that can learn from you based on the fact that you have parents who have, a financial background or legal background, and we're teaching you all of these things. And our child said, absolutely no. You will see her later. But she says, Mommy, I don't want to be on YouTube, but I'll support you. So I will take that. But funny enough, we just kept on talking, keep on having the conversations with her. And she came to me and she said, Mommy, I need to earn some money. And I said, like, yeah, for what? I was thinking Robux. Right? I know she said, what? And she said, Mommy, I want to earn some money to buy some stocks.
Ooh.
I love
And
that.
I
Wow.
want to start an investment account.
Wow.
So I said, how are you going to earn this money? She said to me, Mommy, I want to be the creative director for Wealthittude. You want to have children involved. Who better to do it than a child?
There you go.
And I felt so good about that because then, even though we're having the conversations and sometimes we get the thing like, oh, again, I realize that it's seeping in and she is taking note in her very own way. And asking to be the creative director is something that she's passionate about because she's good at it. She's good at art. She's good at editing. The kids are on the computer all the time. They're on social media. Right, we'll have to negotiate the salary. But she said okay. She said okay. Right? But it's something that we have to keep on having the conversations about. The days where say, oh, no, it's not your argument. You must be seen or not heard.
No.
Those days, I want the camera to go close up on you on this one.
Yes.
Those days are gone. We can, as Anthony said, learn from our children. They have so much that we can garner from them. And when we learn from them, they will help us to figure out how we guide them. Right? So I just encourage everybody to have the conversation. Keep on having the conversation. It may not seem like it's doing anything now working. And then we'll continue to work on it. But I also want you guys to look into your channel and talk to your children. What's one thing that you want to impart to your daughter? That closing takeaway.
Oh, is it me?
Yeah. anyone. Antonio, you're always the one who has a lot to say.
Yeah, no, sorry.
I'll start while the ladies think.
So,
You have to look into
to my daughter Isabella, firstly, Daddy. I would encourage her to always approach things from a very fundamental perspective, right? So, one, in life, generally speaking, pursue the things that you are passionate about. Just as a whole life lesson. One, two, always, from a money perspective, take time. It may not be the most, interesting thing to do or glamorous thing to do, but understand what it is that you are spending every single month because it's necessary. If you don't understand what you're spending, money is a thing that will just disappear. So you have to account for it. You have to prepare for it. Just like you have an exam, you have to make sure that you understand how it is that you're doing the things that you're doing because it's your life, right? That's one. Two, make sure that no matter what, you're always putting aside a little something. It is, old people always have a thing that they say, it's not how much you earn, but it's how much you're staying, right? And the old people are never wrong. They also have a thing that feeds from that, which says, one cocoa, whole basket. So that is the Warren Buffett lesson, right? When it is that you take one thing and you keep adding to it and it replenishes itself and it grows bigger by that thing and you keep adding, it will grow and grow and grow, right? 3, make sure that you are, and this is both a money thing and a personal thing. Who you marry or you end up with in life is very, very, very important. Right? It's necessary. Because listen,
it's true.
You cannot have it coming in one hand and going out in the other, right? So it's necessary.
Yeah.
So it's necessary to understand the person that you stand alongside in life. Put God first every single time. and always try to make sure that you do right in his eyes and do right by the people around you every single day. And once you're starting on your journey and you're in this case into talking about wealth and you're pursuing the things that you're passionate about, stay with it. Be persistent. There are no great businesses, no great dynasties that are built in this world that do not have challenges from time to time. So, mommy and daddy taught her something when she was 2 or 3 years old. It's a very simple statement that she remembers to this day. And it goes like this. It says, Spence's never give up. So I would encourage her to take that forward and build on whatever mommy and daddy has.
Yeah.
Do your thing with your own spin. We're always going to be open to you on that. And we just look forward to seeing you grow really, really well and enjoy your life and execute along your wealth building strategy. And again, daddy love you.
My daddy said it all, but she said daddy and mommy love you. Right? I just want to add something that a lot of the times we're so hard on ourselves. I find that I can be that way sometimes, as Mia has told me. But you are evolving, and when you're evolving, you will make mistakes, and it is okay to make the mistakes. But once you make the mistakes, learn from the mistakes, right? Surround yourself with good, positive people who are, will encourage you and will keep you on the path that you want to go. And also remember that you have everything that you need in this life. You just have to go deep within and just find out what you need. I always tell you, don't place yourself in a box. You determine what your outlook determines what your day looks like. So I want to encourage you, sweetie pie, to just continue to go on. And I hope as the creative director, let me just say not hope, I know as the creative director of Wealthittude, others will learn from you and you will continue to grow. Right?
So, Kai.
Oh. Sure. Okay. Hi, Mick. I think what I would like to leave with you, is that wealth is not separate from you. It's possible, and to just kind of, educate yourself from now on all the concepts that can help you to get there, starting with budgeting, whatever income that you get from mommy at this point.
I love that.
You start out just seeing what you spend, what you can save, and we go from there.
Fantastic.
Okay. To Gabrielle and Benjamin Gregory, do as mommy says, as she does. Do as I say, not as I do. So, when you are shopping, make sure to plan, have a budget, and then you spend, right? Don't be willy-nilly spending all over the place and all of that stuff. So, make sure you have a plan and you prepare. Also, there is a legacy laid out in front of you. Mom, as you know, you are a part of a family business. So I would encourage you both to get involved, as we're doing now. We're about to embark on something that will include both of you. So get involved more in the family business, because that now will lead to that's generational wealth. That is going to be our legacy to the world. So I encourage you to just get more involved in that. You may have your own interests. You may want to do other things, but we could have a group of companies. So, we want to think more in terms of being an entrepreneur. We're not doing 9 to 5. We're doing more wealth building by building businesses.
Yes.
So mommy will train you to become a very strong business leader, that you can make your mark in the world. That's it.
Love it.
For me, to my daughter Alexia, as I'd mentioned before, we started talking about the whole thing of saving from at an early age, because I realized, in my adult years that saving, when a person is able to save over a period of time and accumulate a certain amount of money, they're better able to meet their goals, So, in terms of putting money aside, not just spending of impulses, and also being independent as a young lady, as my daughter gets older, I try to talk to her often about just being independent in the years to come. So that is what most I usually stressed about, you know.
All right. So my parting shot, Serafia, would be there are some things that we will want to say to our children, and here are some things that we need to do. So when you think again, if you take into consideration the fact that wealth is something that is built and happens over time, there are some things that I'd want to leave with maybe the persons who would be watching, who have children, irrespective of the age. You don't need to make sure that we develop a budget template for the child and yourself actually to be able to go through. Every single child should, this is just my own perspective, just in terms of being able to take that next step for us as parents, for our children. Children need to be able to buy shares, right? So we need to get investment accounts set up for children, and we can kind of walk them through. It doesn't have to be very complex, but we need to sit down and take a little time to get our children buying into the very businesses that they are now consumers of. So if you think about it, when we go to the supermarket, there are things that we buy for brands that we know and trust. There are places that we do our financial services for, again, places that we know and trust. There are entities that provide our printing services that we know and trust. Yes. There are places that we buy shoes and we play video games on that we enjoy, that is used by thousands and millions of other. So we need to encourage them to get accounts. Well, we need to get accounts
for them.
set up so that they can start to invest in these things that they would otherwise consume. So that's the first path to ownership. That's one. Two, we need to get them to be consistent. So whatever accounts that we set up for them like that, we need to have them know that every single month they're going to put aside this particular amount. And the amount is always relative to what is affordable in the case of that parent and that child. Three, we need to make sure that as parents, where we have assets, and they could be as simple as land, house, businesses, etc., we put in place those things to allow, in the event that we are no longer here, that those assets finds its way to the hands of our children, and we teach them about the respective assets. So I am encouraging not just talking to them, but the doing has to happen immediately after.
But you know what will happen when you do that though? Your own shortfalls that you find with yourself will help you to be more consistent. And it will bring you back round to your financial plan and getting to that particular path. So it won't only be about them. It will be about you as well. And it comes full circle. Back to
Especially the discipline of being consistent.
The discipline of being consistent. But you know, this conversation can continue. I would just sit and talk to you really all day. And our conversations will continue. So here's what I want to do, or we want to do. We have budgeting templates that we're going to share with you and anyone else who emails us or drop us a comment or a line that says budget. And we will send that template. So that will be your starting point for yourself and also your children, to make it easier for you to see where the money is coming from and where the money is going to. I can tell you, when I was a financial advisor, for one of the, I won't call it in, one of the financial companies. One of the things that I used to marvel at is that persons will come to me and say, "So Raphael, I'm earning, just for argument's sake, 100,000 per month." I was like, "Okay, and what are you spending?" "Just 50,000 or just 40,000. So I'm like, "Where's the other 60,000? Are you seeing it?" "No." "How much you spend on supermarket? They give me an amount. How much you spend on dining, or they give me an amount." I was like, "All right, but we're not seeing that because they do not, in fact, have the money to save and invest." That's what you're telling me. I said, let's do a little challenge, right? Which is for a month. I want you to take every receipt that you have, whether it be supermarket, whether it be lunch, whether it be buying clothes, anything, just for 1 month. And I'm going to take those from you, and I'm going to tally up, and I'm going to see if what you think where the money is going, that's exactly where it is going. And I can tell you, 9 times out of 10, people are in shock. And we did it for ourselves too, right? And sometimes I'm in shock and awe. So I said, "No, man, we're spending this on supermarket." And Tony said, "No, it's about that." I'm like, "No, you're mad." No. But when we actually take the receipts and we put it together, you'd be amazed at what you think you're spending versus what we're actually spending, the disparity between the two. And so being more organized with that will definitely help. So that's a challenge that I'm going to throw out to you and the audience. Just take 1 month and take all your receipts and see if whether or not you're spending what you think you're spending, and see where your money is going. In another episode, we'll deal with cash. I hardly have any cash because they don't know how to track cash. A lot of people don't know how to track the spending of cash. And so we'll do another episode about that. But I want to close in saying, it is our mission. We're very passionate about this. This is a mission that we're very, very passionate about. This is the start. You are part of the Wealthittude family, and we're not going to leave you alone to do this journey. We will help you to develop the budget and the necessary share with you the necessary material to make this process easier for you. Some of you may not have children yet, but you want financial freedom for yourself. There's something that you're passionate about, and you want to own real estate, you want to leave a legacy, whatever it is, we're going to be here to help you. And so I close. I don't know if anybody has any other parting last words that you want to say before we close. I think they said that they've said it all. All right. So thank you so much for joining us. It was indeed a pleasure. I want to thank our guests. You will see their children in the next episode. We're going to do an episode with the children to find out what they think about all of this wealth talk, and how we can help them better. So thanks again. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell. I will see you here next time on Wealthittude.
Knowledge me again, financial mastery. Yeah, learning to stack assets and building wealth properly. Oi, yeah, welcome to the Wealthittude family.